tips to going into taking that first plunge or that first cold shower?
If it is winter where you are, that's probably not the best time to start taking cold showers. So if you do live in a cold place in wintertime, then just embrace the cold when you're out walking a bit more to start with that. If it's summertime where you are, then take advantage of the summer heat. When it's a hot summer's day, maybe go out in the morning, get some sun exposure, warm your body up, and then go into the cold shower. That helps so much, right? And then afterwards as well, go outside and get some sun exposure to warm back up again. You can't just expect to go have a cold shower and then come out and just be normal. You got to warm your body up again, right? The goal isn't to be shivering and freezing all day. It's just to, in that moment, have that radical experience of being so cold that your whole body is affected and your cells are moving around, your neurons are firing differently. I don't know what all goes on in your body, but it definitely changes you in that moment, right? And then afterwards, it's totally okay to warm back up again. I think that's probably the best. You don't want to be freezing all day. So I would say that, just focus on the moment, being cold for just a few minutes. It's not a matter of being freezing and uncomfortable all day. It's just that one little moment to reset your brain, reset your mind, your body.
That's true. And you hit it right on the nail. It's presence. That is one of the biggest thing. It's being present, because when you're present, that helps with every other aspect outside of that cold shower. So I just took one this morning actually. And after that 40-day challenge, I've been off and on, right? Sometimes I'll have mornings, obviously, like we all do, where we don't take one. We'll skip them, a couple of days in a row or whatnot, but you get right back on course. So I've had this just experience today, this morning, of presence. And when I turn on the shower right now, what I do is I just jump right in and I just turn it on while I'm in there. So it's more of that powerful effect. And at first you're your mind starts going every which way, right? It starts panicking, oh my gosh, what's going on right now? But that's where presence actually is one of the biggest things, because if we focus on that limitless, like you just mentioned, if we focus on switching our mind and saying, no, just this little bit of time right here, I'm going to enjoy it. This is not bad at all. Let me just enjoy the moment, the experience, and watch what happens. It's crazy. I've had times where throughout that 40-day challenge where I switched my mindset and I've enjoyed it and stayed in so much longer. That was just one of the wonderful things.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it really all does come down to just your mindset, the way you're approaching it, what you're thinking about when doing that, right? If you don't see the potential benefits for yourself, then why are you going to force yourself to do this thing, right? It's same with exercise, right? Maybe you think you look okay, you don't necessarily want to improve yourself physically, and you think you're kind of healthy. So if you really don't see the complete benefits, you're not going to be motivated to go and do it, right? And a lot of it is, you can read the science, you can learn this is actually good for me, this and that. But I think mainly you just have to really believe in it yourself, right? The science, because science is so tricky. You know what I mean? You can, with diet, for example, you can read something that pulls you this way, eat more saturated fat, and then you read other stuff that says, no, that's bad for you. Eat more, no fat, right? There's just so, even today, right? There's so much pulling in different, And so what it really comes down to is what you believe in, right? And if you really believe in what you're doing is making you healthier, making you smarter, making you better, then that's going to be the motivation. And then if you can, with cold exposure, read all the health benefits, then it's just going to solidify your beliefs, give you that external validation of what it is that you're doing, right? You follow guys like Wim Hof, it just makes you believe in it even more. But it all has to start with you believing in it yourself, right? Yes, this is going to benefit me. This is going to make me better, going to make me superhuman, going to make me limitless. You got to have those beliefs. And with that, all the health benefits that are scientifically proven and stuff, that's just going to be a bonus kind of thing, right? You're I already know. I feel it. I believe in this, right?
All about intent, baby. All about intent. It's it's really setting that intent about, hey, this will help me. And like you said, the science is tricky, but if you read those little messages that are oh, this can help you with better hair. There's stuff like weight loss, stuff all different kinds of things. But the thing we have to keep in mind, and I say this a lot in my YouTube videos, is that everybody's body is different because we're all different, right? Same thing with dieting. It might not work for someone else. It might work for you, but it might not work for another individual. That's the same thing with cold showers, but it's setting that intent going into it, saying, okay, I'm going to plan this and I know that this is going to work for me. I'm going to feel great afterwards. I'm going to have the rest of my day is going to be excellent. I'm going to be focused, right? All different kind of things. And that's one of the important things. I think we should talk a little bit about, breath work, how important that kind of correlates with cold showers.
Yeah. To me, I believe I kind of discovered breath work before cold exposure, and maybe I discovered them at the same time, but going through a breathing exercise, you're less resistant to that. Right. And that is something that you can do doesn't matter if it's winter out, doesn't matter if it's summer out. The weather doesn't affect that, right? Nothing really affects it. You don't have to even have access to a shower, have access to anything. That's something that you can do yourself whenever. So that is the most accessible, right? But for me has led to cold exposure and other sorts of things that seem to go hand in hand. I mean, if you follow Wim Hof's story, the way he came across the benefits of breathing in the way that he does is by doing cold exposure and recognizing that the first thing that happens is your breathing changes, right? And when you focus on your breathing in the cold exposure, it helps. And that's what kind of led him to understanding the breath work. And then, the rest is kind of history with his breathing techniques. So I think they go hand in hand, most definitely, right?
Yeah, that's true. And that's the thing I kind of tried to grasp was his breathing technique itself within the challenge. And I got some questions on this too. It's like, I think I'm going to make another video explaining it specifically because it's into the stomach, right? Into the chest, into the head. And it's that specific pattern that creates that motion of the breath. And what I noticed is that, like you said, when you jump into the shower, it's that quick, sudden change. You have to do something with your breath. You have to take control. And what's happening is that your sympathetic nervous system's activating because it's that fight or flight. When you get hit by that water, you're like, whoa, you're like, what's going on? You don't know, right? That fight or flight. So what Wim Hof is trying to teach you, especially with the big let go of carbon dioxide, right? When we do the in for 25, 30 breaths, and then we let go of all of our carbon dioxide, right? We let it out of our body, and we hold at the bottom, because that's one of the main things he tries to have us do is hold at the bottom. He's trying to activate our parasympathetic nervous system, so our rest and digest. So he's trying to calm our body down when that cold water's hitting us. So we're relaxed, right? We're in that present moment. We're not freaking out in that fight or flight sense. And then we breathe in, hold at that top, which is, it's insane how that actually, how your breath can really take over and control a situation like cold exposure.
And it excites me so much, man. Discovering these things really makes you feel more in control as a human being. And that may sound kind of corny, but man, it's not hard to feel out of control with everything. Maybe your finances are messed up, or even just with this COVID, so much in the world was going on. You really can feel out of control and maybe lost. But you start doing some breath work and it just radically changes your state, right? And it's just so powerful. And then you start to really think about the mind and what the mind is really capable of, right? I've had experiences with following the breath work where afterwards you just feel total bliss, right? And it's wow, my mind is totally clear. And Absolutely. Then it becomes addictive, right? It's like the effect that you always wanted when, perhaps drinking alcohol or maybe smoking weed or doing something in high school when you're with your friends or going to a party. It's you're pursuing something. You want to feel different. You want to feel blissful or whatever it may be. But it's never attainable through some substance. Even with coffee, for example, right? You want to drink that coffee to feel motivated, to feel alert and focused, but it's never quite complete, right? It's always fleeting. But with breath work and with cold exposure, those feelings that you get, like that's true, presence, true focus, bliss. I don't know what the right words are to describe it, but it's so amazing. And it really becomes addictive, something that you want to just continue to pursue more and more.
That's powerful. Wim Hof, what he calls it is high on your own supply.
Yeah.
It's that high on your own supply, right? And I've noticed that, after a shower, I'll literally just be sitting there or lying down and just doing his breath work. And then over time, I'll be like that bliss
Yes.
feeling of just like, wow, like what even is like anything. You're just like chilling there. Like you just feel amazing. You feel in his world high on your own supply. But that's what actually kind of got me more into mindfulness, is like breath work, and how that can like really expand and develop your mind itself, and how you can just take control over your mind in a situation where you're anxious, you don't feel good, and then you just sit down and you're like, let me just focus on my breath, because breath is a stress stimulus, right? It's how we notice and take actually note of how we're breathing throughout the day. We can stop and be like, oh, let me just do this little breathing technique, this box breathing, and for which Ben Greenfield talks a lot about practicing this little breathing technique can actually revert my whole entire mind to feeling better. It's crazy what our breath can do, especially for the shower.